Hey listeners, Dan Harris here, host of the 10% Happier podcast. Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible Originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Harris or text Harris to 500-500.
Hey, what's up? It's Ryan Shazier, former NFL linebacker and host of the podcast Don't Call It a Comeback. Football season is finally upon us. That means lots and lots of yelling, great conversations, and abundance of delicious food. There's nothing like a good game day food tradition. I love grilling. And on Sundays, me and my family love eating Oscar Mayer beef franks. It honestly can't get more classic than that. But you know, game day can't stop with just one food. I love making cheeseburgers topped with some extra melty Kraft singles. And you have to get a little fancy with it by adding jalapenos and crispy onions. I'm getting hungry even thinking about it. I love sharing game day food traditions with my friends and family. Now is your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food traditions to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
We recording. Oh, it's my Spanish accent. No, wait, no, what? No, hold on. I just switched to like Scottish.
It was so bad. That was
so you're just telling me that some people have a switch. So you
like a trigger word. Yeah.
So if I want to say some Scottish, I'm a
Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts.
Oh, you can't do accents. Wow. I did no that you have down.
Get out about it.
Can we do a Spanish one?
Buenos días, señorita.
Oh my God,
that's good, right?
No, that's you can't. You got to roll that R.
Buenos días, señorita.
Senor, what?
Buenos días, señorita.
Oh wow,
that's perfect.
That's you got it. Wow, your accent.
Buenos días. I'm trying to learn Spanish too.
The word is Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Good day.
There's a car wash close, and I go in there, and it's all these young Spanish girls who don't speak any English. So I'm trying to learn how to speak Spanish to them. They're all looking at.
Don't say hola. It's very easy.
Hola, señorita. Buenos días. ¿Cómo está?
Wow,
that's good, right?
No, yeah, that's awesome. You're like a full to our listeners in Spain, including Marcus Fajardo. Say that please spread this around.
It's like I'm from Ecuador
or from Brampton. I've never heard of the accent.
The Spanish section of Brampton.
That's it. Yes, have that.
The Spanish farmer.
Well, today we want to talk about coaches because as you know, I'm currently a coach of my hockey team. Shout out to the Saints. I coach with Andy Lane, Lieutenant Lane, and Brian Strack. We got a great squad. You coached with John Tonelli famously,
yep.
And you coached with Greenwich High School team too for a little bit, right?
1 year at the Greenwich boys team. They'd had a really tough year with some discipline issues the year before, so they brought me in to be kind of the tough guy. Locally here, the head coach of the female team about 3 years ago now. She lives in my complex, and we got introduced to her, so I helped her. That was a great year coaching the girls. The girls are fantastic. I tell a story all the time. Boy, I didn't listen to anybody. I don't listen to anybody now. But the girls were great. We were in for practice the first time. I helped some young girl do something the camera was, and I got done. She goes, "Thank you, coach."
Oh, nice.
I turned to look to go. Nobody's ever thanked me before for coaching, so they're good.
Did you do the away games too, or just all the games?
No, all the games. Yeah, it was good. All the practice. Yeah, it was good. They were. The girls are fantastic. You know, it was some of the girls is more of a social thing than what I mean, which is fine. It's high school. But some of the girls really like off-season training and all that. They really got into it. So there's a disparity in size in it, and we didn't have as many kids here in Greenwich. There's different high schools that kids have, private high schools that kids can go to. So it's a thinner pools. Yeah, but it was still a blast. It's a great year.
My ice hockey coaching experience is limited so far to mites. This is my second year. I love it. It's great. Sometimes it is like herding cats.
Yeah.
but the kids have such fun. And when they learn something, you see it stick. They just feel they feel good about themselves, you know?
Yeah. And coaching, I know you know this, but you got a great opportunity to really help shape kids' lives, right?
100%. And the funny thing is with these 8-year-olds, they're more concerned with their sellies than with really any of the fundamentals. So they all have great sellies.
But don't you think, as you said, as you get in your head, listen, I'm not going to be able to have these kids be totally disciplined. No, I'm going to let them have fun.
They have to have fun. Especially at this age. I mean, high school is a different story. They're trying to get somewhere. This is just kids learn the game, and they got to just have fun. I did coach a little bit of learn to play with the Rangers. I did this Buds for Hockey group with this guy at Fritz Dietel. We talk about Fritz a lot, but this guy, Bruce Fowler, who is just a throwback Canadian guy, and he's fun. He yells at the kids, and he's like, "Bigger sticks!" Like this.
He's a big guy tonight.
Yeah, you'd be there. Yeah, very old school.
Yeah,
a different approach, but he's like kind of like hard old school coach. Yeah. These little kids, you know, who are just learning, but it works. Some people love it, and then I have guys like you met Brendan Riley, who runs the New Jersey Falcons, and he creates a family atmosphere, and they love him. They love playing on that team. So there's different approaches. So I think the old school approach doesn't really work as much anymore. I think people are different. I think we're built different now. So you need to have that whole
society's different. Yeah, everything's strict. Like when I played, I think I got a lot of it because my coaches were hard on me. You know, I grew up on a farm, all that mentality and everything. But now the kids nowadays, I just don't think. I mean, first of all, I think you take the fun out of it for them. So now they're just not enjoying it. So they're not going to get the most out of it.
So they're going to leave. I remember, stories like I hear my parents talk about, not so much my mom, she didn't get trouble. My dad telling me how the nuns would like smack his fingers with a ruler, and they would, pull his hair. Now, if they had done that to me as his kid, he probably would have went to school screaming at someone. Totally. So times definitely change, and now it's changing even more where it's like, hey, just, don't be a dick to people. Just,
you got to teach them something, give them life lessons.
100%. So you can't be such a hardo on these kids,
Yeah. Agreed.
But coaching, you were lucky enough to have some great coaches. You had Herb Brooks, famously talked about.
Yeah, I've told the story many times about junior B coach Rick Hay. There's several coaches that made a difference in my career, my life, moving up. But he was one of the guys that he really saw something in me, and he talked about being hard on me. I tell the story. So I was a hard worker, but he wanted me to get more in my game. And one of the things that I really had to have down as a defensive defenseman was getting back in my own zone and moving the puck out quickly. And it seemed like obviously this is my memory now, but it seemed like every practice we would do breakouts. And it seemed like he would yell at me the whole time. And again, he didn't, but it's just, that's my memory of it. And I remember feeling sick to my stomach. It's like, oh God, here we go again. But what it did was he forced me to be awake and alert, go hard back for the puck, get your head on a swivel, look around where the breakout passes and pass the puck. That's my job. And I bet you my career must have done that thousands of times. And if it wasn't for him really pushing me to get better, now that spread out to other parts of the game and in my life to do things the right way. I do it all out, but he made a big difference. Yeah, the coaches were fantastic. My college coach, Rick Comley, you talk about Herb Brooks. And other guys like Robbie Fatorik, too.
Sure.
Robbie was coaching me. I played with Robbie in New York. He's coached out in L.A. We were in training camp, and again, we've talked about this. I just didn't know any better. Like when I was on the ice, I just had to plow through it all the time. And it's training camp. I'm like an 8-year pro or whatever. I feel like I have to make the team. And Robbie comes over to me at one point. He goes, "Tom, you don't have to make the team today." I go, and I really didn't understand what he's talking about. He's slow down.
He's like, slow down. You're here. You're good.
Training camp. So
well, let me ask this. So now, how is that coach having a former player and teammate coach you? Is it weird? Is it like, oh, you're the boss now? Like
it could be weird, but with Robbie, when he played, he was still that great friend, great teammate, and everything. But he was so disciplined. Like I feel like I'm disciplined now. I wasn't as disciplined back then. But he kind of separated himself in the terms of the discipline, but he didn't separate himself as far as being a team player,
right?
But you always looked at him differently because of that discipline that he had. If you talk about guys, Joe Carvalho, fine, but I say to a lot of the guys we have on the show, I see this is total confidence. You clearly didn't make it.
Got there on hard work.
Got there hard. He would epitomize that. Like he'd be a picture of that. So when he became a coach, it really wasn't.
It just made sense. He would be the coach, but he doesn't try to like be that hardo with you guys. Now, I guess he did a little bit because he got in trouble with Mike Gretzky a little with that.
Yeah, well, you know what it was with Robbie? He was very clear, great communicator. This is the way I am. This is the way I coach. And he even said to me one time, I said, "Robbie, you want to soften up a little bit with Wayne." He said, "No, Tom, you're going to get fired anyways. Right. Coaches always get fired. So I might as well coach the way I coach. And then I can look myself in the mirror and be happy with the way I've done it."
Even if that means benching the greatest player who ever played. Right.
But the thing is here with me, like we've had Timmy Waters on the show. Tim and I were partners together, and Robbie Fatorik just loved us. There was never a problem with us because we were his kind of players. So it wasn't like there was some battle, like he's trying to get us to change our game. What we were is what he wanted us to be.
Sure.
So, and that's usually with most coaches. I guess that's the way. I mean, some coach will want you, and especially when you're a younger player, you may have to conform. And Herb Brooks did that with me. I'd had that one good year, my rookie year. I think I'm going to be this 2-way defenseman, and quickly squash that. Like,
That's it. You're get it out. So no, so Robbie, that was just him, and that's what he was doing.
Cool.
But you now you're also at Ted Sater. Did you get along with Sater?
Well, actually, initially I got along with Ted Sater. That's the funny about it. Now I look back at him, and I should be careful. He's a human being, but I didn't. Well, things happened between him and I. So again, up to the point where Ted Sater came in, I had played all the time. I mean, I missed 6 weeks because I ruptured my spleen. So I was that guy, that player's player, assistant captain, always playing, playing through. And a lot of guys play through injuries, but that was really who I had become, that right guy. And then so Ted came in. Yeah, things were going fine. Then I hurt my back partway through the year, and again, me like plowing through things, like have that mentality. I was going to plow through the back injury. And I should have, that was a time where I should have backed off.
Yeah.
And said, okay, you need to adjust your training. You need to do things differently. It just wasn't. And we thought about this too. I think to myself, okay, but that's how I became a player. So how would I have known at that point? Now it's easier to look back and say, Tom, you should have changed things.
Yeah, that's also how you ended your career early, though, too.
Yeah, no question. But again, I just had that mentality, this is how I do things. It's worked for me.
So like Robbie Fattori.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the truth. And again, you look back and you say, well, obviously, yeah, you should have changed it. But when you're in the middle of it and you're playing, no, I mean, why would I change it? Like people say about like trusting your process.
Yeah.
So my process was to just don't think about it too much. Get out, don't get on the trainer's table. Just go, put your ski down and go. And that's how everything.
Till you couldn't go.
Yeah, till you couldn't go anymore. me, I'm still stubborn.
Completely.
We talked about learning lessons.
So real quick, then, your 3 top coaches in your life. Who are they?
Oh, Rick Conley, and Herbie.
All right, there you go. And today we have, speaking of coaching, we have a Hall of Fame coach on. We have a great coach. He's had his battles with players, but he's also had his success. And today we have Ken Hitchcock on.
Yeah.
Good morning, Tom. Today we have an incredible guest. We have a Hall of Famer on, a newly minted Hall of Famer, Stanley Cup winning coach, and an NHL coach for almost 1,600 games. We have Ken Hitchcock on.
Hitch, how are you doing, bud? Good to see you.
Good, Tom. Good to see you.
Like the last time I spoke to you, I was in the agent business representing Brian Berard, and you guys, I think you got a few of these battles. We got a battle on the bench there.
Well, you had a battle on the bench?
Well, not a physical battle, but Hitch was used to this. We'll talk about this some more, but well, let's get at it. I like getting right at it here. So I have been, we talked a lot, I think it all started with Mike Babcock when he got trouble for all this stuff and got fired. Obviously, he's coming back now. And there was Mike Keenan, and I think we put you in that category. And it was interesting because I heard you do an interview on NHL radio probably about 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was taped long before that, but you said you tried to create chaos. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Well, everything, the bench area and the dressing room, mostly the bench, it's the most volatile area in sport. I mean, I've stood on NFL benches, and it's incredible in that area. Being in Major League Baseball benches, but in hockey, everything's close, and so it's a very emotional, volatile area. And when there's no energy, you've got to find a way to get. You just can't give up and just let the game play out. You got to find a way to change the energy, and so I felt that creating a little bit of chaos, a little bit of FU sometimes. It turned out that way, created a different environment, a different energy, a different emotion, and then you could sort it out by there. Now, some guys do it by just flipping lines all over the place, and nobody knows who's playing with who, and it creates a different energy. But the whole aspect of it is to change the energy in the game, to change the energy on the bench, and kind of a wake-up call for everybody, coaches, players, everybody. And I just felt like I didn't want to give up on the game and just let it ride out. And I felt like we could still win it, or we could still make an impact in the game, but we had to find a different energy, Tom.
So you thought, so I'll use Brian Berard, my client, that was playing with you in Columbus. You guys got an FU battle on the bench there. So did you realize, okay, I need to shake things up here because we're flat. So you had like, okay, I'm going to say something here and get these guys going, and it happened to be Berard in that case?
I would talk to the coaching staff in between periods, And I would say, listen, just be ready for this because we've got no energy, we've got no emotion. We're being, the second and third effort, we're being dominated. Second quick, they're getting every loose puck. We got to change something. And so I would pre-warn the coaches, get ready for this, because sometimes they had to do damage control. Sure. And then I would try to change I felt like it was still going nowhere. I didn't want to quit on the team. Just didn't want to let it play out. I felt like I still had ownership in the outcome of the game, and I didn't want to give up. And so I would try to change the energy on the bench.
So did the leadership group on the team, did they know this was going on, that this is part of your plan?
Yeah. Yeah. Well. And first the coaches knew, but the leaders knew when I was doing it. I might make eye contact or grab them by the arm and say, "There we go." And
you're right. There goes. That's great.
We got to change the energy. And I wouldn't do it to people. Like, I knew Berard could more than handle it, more than give it back. And I wasn't doing it to pick on people. I knew the people that I was talking to could really take it and take charge of it and make a difference. And Brian was one of those guys that could make a difference. And I needed him. So I felt he was a guy that had to take responsibility for changing the energy.
Yeah, you got him fired up. Well, I had that same relationship with Herb Brooks when he came in. So I'd had my good rookie year. I was 6 goals, 23 assists. And I thought, man, I'm going to be a two-way defenseman. And then Herb comes in, and rightfully so, he had different plans. And we had, so my second year was his first year in the NHL. We had a meeting at our practice rink in Rye Playland day before our first game. And Herb loved his speeches, right? He called everybody together, center ice. He goes, Barry Beck, this is your job. Ron Breshner, here's yours. Ron Duguay, here's yours. He gets to me at the end. He says, Laidlaw, when you get the puck, give it to somebody else. You're not supposed to have it. And I'm sure you'd love that one. And the guys are all like dying laughing. And I'm pissed. I'm like, what? You idiot. Like, I'm going to be a two-way defenseman. But you know what he was really good at too? So he that was all he said to me. He said, this is your role. Get the puck up to the forwards. But he was really good at following through after, saying, okay, so we got a deal here now. If you do what I ask you to do, I'm going to play you in all those key defensive situations. You're going to be that guy. And he followed through with that. And I said, I guess I'm get played all the time. So I guess this is what I'm going to do. And he was right. That's who I should have been a player. So, it's funny. Like, I'm sure you're the same way too. Like, at the time when he did it, I thought he was a total jerk. Wait, I'm sure a lot of your players have said this about you in the FU fights, right? Like, what a jerk. But I look back at it, and we've had Bob Bassett on that you coach. We've had Daryl Sador, Craig Ludwig, and they all speak so highly of you. We hear these people that are pissed at you because of the stuff you say, but then the guys that stuck with you, that leadership group, love the way you coach, right? They may not loved it at the time when you were doing it, but later on they see all the great things about it.
Well, I don't want to say I was guilty of this, but the one thing I believed is every team I coached, Tom, I thought was special, and I thought we could do special things. And I really believed in my players. I found ways to believe in them. I really felt like every team I coached could accomplish, really good things. And I wanted to push the buttons to see how far we could go. But I did it because I really believed in my players. And I really believed in guys individually and collectively. And I felt like if I could build a camaraderie and I could build a cohesion within the group, we could beat anybody. And that was my firm belief. And I think sometimes we're guilty of not telling the players how much we appreciate what they sacrifice and what they do for us. But I really believed in the guys, and I really believed that people could do special things if I could get them to individually and collectively to embrace the buy-in. And so that was what it was all about, was the collective and individual buy-in.
You think you did a good job of telling the players how much you appreciated them?
No.
Oh.
To be honest with you, I am now, and I've got lots of ex-players that are friends, and I compliment them. I don't think I did it enough, and I don't think any coach in my era did it enough when we were coaching. I don't think we said how much we appreciated their sacrifice like I do now, or like I did later in my career. I found later in my career, really when I went to St. Louis, I started to really acknowledge how much sacrifice and how impressed I was with the players and how much I appreciated what they did. But I think I was so much in the grind and trying to win championships and trying to be in first place and pushing hard that I never took stock. I never stopped and took stock and said, hey, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I love you. And I can't tell you how much this means to me. Well, I'm asking a lot of you, and you're giving a lot, and I really appreciate it. And it really started for me way back in 2009 when I went into, or 2008 when I went into St. Louis.
Wow. That's interesting. So do you think the eras are different too? Like I remember, it was more like, okay, if you're putting me on the ice at the right times, the key situations, now you're showing me that you appreciate me. Like, you know, that like Herbert come down at the end of the bench, he literally kicked me in the ass. He says, get the fuck out there. And he didn't ask me whether I was healthy, whether I was tired. He just, I knew he wanted me on the ice, and that fired me up so much. He didn't care if I was at 100% or not. And I guess, I don't know, like your opinion, it's a different era, right? Like in our era, it's more like the old blood and guts, drinking beer and men, you know, and now like the game's changed. So the people have changed now, right? Society's changed.
I don't think the game has changed as much as the people in the game have changed.
Yeah.
I think what's really, and I tell people this, what's really changed for me is if you expect a buy-in from your players, individually and collectively, you have to be really strong at explaining where this sacrifice is going to take them. Rather than when you played and I coached when you played, we would just go on the journey together and sort it out as we were going. Now they want to know the end game.
Yeah.
And you better be prepared to explain it to them. And if you're not prepared to explain it to them, you will never get a buy-in, Tom. And the players will always be leery and unapproachable when you're asking for certain sacrifices to get made. And I thought a perfect example was Butch Cassidy this year.
Yep.
He explained, you could see it through the media. He was explaining what he was asking the players and what he was wanting to see. And he was very appreciative of when they did it. And I think he's a typical successful modern coach now where he's able to explain the end game before they even get to the starting blocks.
You touched on something there too. He did it through the media. So do you think he just did it through the media, or do you think there was other individual meetings where he was talking to the players as well?
I think you do it through every avenue possible. You've got to use the media to explain the big picture, but more important, you've got to make sure that the players have a clear understanding of what you want, how they're going to do it, and then where is it going to take them. They need to know where this sacrifice is going to take them before they buy in, and you need to explain all three avenues before you can even expect a buy-in at all.
So basically you're saying it's communication. That's the big change from your era, Tom. That you communicate with these players, you over-communicate so they know exactly what's expected, and then you thank them when they make those sacrifices.
Yeah, I had Freddie Shearer was my first coach. There was no communication.
No.
Not zero. It was not, you didn't know. He came one time and put his hand on my back on the bench, and I thought, is he yanking me off the bench, send me home? And I read in his book later that he thought he was transferring energy to me. And that was the only communication I ever had with Freddie.
And what's really interesting is I spent 22 or 23 years as a head coach in the National Hockey. I bet you I went in the locker room post-game maybe 10 times in my whole career.
Really? Wow.
The locker room. And now they're in the locker room all the time. And there's
that's interesting, because we would think from the fans' perspective, we would think that the coach is always in there right after the game, speaking to the players as soon as the game's over. That apparently that doesn't happen.
No, I really believed in letting the players enjoy the atmosphere themselves or sharing the responsibility. And I stayed out of there out of respect for the players. I felt like the locker room was theirs and we were just visitors in their locker room. But I tried to make the locker room the players first and foremost. And then we were the visitors that would come in and present the lineup, make the tactical or technical changes necessary between periods, and stay the hell out after the game and try to deal with the outcome the next day void of emotion. And, if they were really good, I would poke my head in and say, just a great effort and congratulations. Take tomorrow off. But if it didn't go well, or if it was just another hockey game, I stayed out for sure. I didn't want to go in.
Is it fair for me to put you in the same group as Mike Babcock and Mike Keenan?
I don't know Mike Keenan at all, but Mike Babcock is one of my best friends, and I really, I know it didn't go well in Toronto, but I really respect Mike. We share a lot of time together. We live next to each other in California, and we play golf together. We hit balls together. We have dinners together. We have breakfast together, and I think, and I coached in the Olympics with him, and I think he's a brilliant coach, and is on the cutting edge of development and team building, and I think that he's going to show people how good a coach he is when you see the job he does in Columbus. So I know it went south in Toronto, but I also know I've been with Mike when it's been at the highest level of intensity. We like I said, we were together in the 2010 and 14 games, and I've seen him operate when it's at the highest level, and he's a great coach.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't think, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't question his coaching ability at all. I guess I don't quite understand, like, again, I have not, this is all rumors, right? I mean, about Mitch Marner, something happened there in Toronto with all that stuff. I guess that extra stuff that you hear about with him, but again, Franzen in Detroit had a problem with him. Again, I just don't think, I don't think he's a bad coach from what I see. In fact, I see he's a great coach. I mean, winning the Stanley Cups. Dallas Drake was a client of mine. At the end of his career, he got released by St. Louis, and he came to me and he said, "Listen, get me to Detroit and don't screw it up." That's all he said. And Mike was coach there, and I said, "Well, what about Babcock? I hear these stories." He says, "Yeah, well, he gets the best out of everybody." Yeah.
And I think one of the things, to me, Mike is a microcosm of where coaching was at and what's changed about it now, Tom. And what I mean by that is that there was a period of time of 10 years or 11 years, we were all so driven that we never had time to take stock. We never took stock in what was happening. And sometimes we were driving so hard and trying to win championships that you forget that you're in the people business. And I think we've all taken stock of that. And I've seen the way Mike is at the college level when he went back and coached. I saw the way he is with minor hockey coaches and how he has a lot of time for them. And I just think, I don't want to say he's misunderstood, but I think you're going to see the real Mike Babcock. And I think you're going to be really, really impressed. I've seen him when it mattered the most. Like there's no pressure like Olympic Games. Like you think there's pressure in the Stanley Cup. It's not even close to what it is in the Olympic Games.
Right.
I saw him with a level of calmness when it mattered so much that very, very impressive. And that's why I think this break is going to really be good for him. And I think he's going to do a wonderful job. I really do.
Good. Do you think he's learned a lot?
Yeah, I think what he's learned is big picture stuff. To not lose sight of the end game and not to, you have to win every battle and every war and every little skirmish. I think he's really big picture oriented, which I think is going to do nothing but help him and the team.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Hey, Ken, can we back up a sec, though? Because you mentioned something that was pretty awesome, was the 2010 Olympics. So can you just talk a little bit about how you guys were feeling when, you mentioned how calm Mike Babcock was as coach, how you guys felt when Parisi scores that goal, now you're going into overtime in the gold medal game. What is that like? What is that feeling like at that moment for you guys?
As a coaching staff, we were a little bit nervous until we walked towards the locker room. And when we walked towards the locker room, there was a group of veteran players that had taken over the room, and they sounded like us. And so we just did a 180 and walked right back out. We never said anything. I remember Mike said, one shot, one goal, gold medal. That's all he said. But the players had already taken over. Scott Niedermayer had already taken it over. And those guys, they were in control of the locker room. And we didn't do a thing. They were already on their way to, hey, things happen. It's one shot. Let's go play. And It was a lot different in 2010. It was really up for grabs. We were getting better as the tournament went on, and the Americans were really good right from day one. And it was a lot different in 2014. I think all of us knew after the second game, with the buy-in we had from the players, nobody was going to beat us. So it was a different atmosphere. But in reality, the players took the game and took the dressing room over when we needed it the most.
I got goosebumps there when you talked about the players taking over the locker room. That was some of the best feelings for me. I was so fortunate at the end of my career to play. Wayne Gretzky was in L.A., Larry Robinson, Dave Taylor, myself, John Tonelli, guys that have been through it all before. And when you're in the locker room, you're not playing well. And then it's like you said, the coaches are smart enough just to stay out of the way, right? Because they know you've got these veteran guys that they know how to win. They want to win. They're proud. But when you sit in that locker room and Larry Robinson stands up, he was, listen, there's Bobby Orr and Potvin and all those guys, but he was, to me, the best defenseman that ever played the game. And to play with him in the career and, be sitting in the locker room, he stands up, starts talking. It's like, oh, wow, this is unbelievable. So,
it's like, cool. And you know what? That's why players play forever, Tom.
Yeah.
And they keep trying to play. They don't want to leave that locker room. They don't want to leave that feeling. Yeah. And it's a great feeling inside a locker room. And I don't think people understand it. Like, that area is special for the players. And we as coaches, we need to stay out of that area and let the team grow, because the team really grows in that locker room.
What if you think kids that you don't, and I mean, obviously with the Olympics, you're going to have this, but what if you're on a team that you don't think you have the leaders in that locker room that you need to have? Do you have to step in and play that role?
No, what you have to do is really, I've said this before, I instruct 23 players, but I coach 4. And those 4 guys need a lot of individual instruction. So I've had teams like that where it's quiet and there's not a lot of feedback coming from there. So I would work really hard, have meetings once or twice a week with just the leaders and go over things. And I would really coach the leaders hard. I needed to have people I could trust effort-wise that could buy in. They didn't need to be the best players, but I needed to find a way that over time I could turn the locker room over to them. So I worked with them. I know in St. Louis, we have a meeting every Monday, and win, lose, or draw, we'd meet with the leaders and we'd bring people in to talk about certain things. But I really worked hard with those guys so they became more vocal, more confident, and they could take the room over when it was needed the most.
And you would talk to them about that specifically, like, listen, guys, you need to take it over. Well, go.
I would go through scenarios. I'd go through instances. There were times I was hard on those guys because I would say, there was a skilled player that wasn't buying in. And rather than me just go after the skilled player, I'd say, why didn't you guys hold them accountable? Accountability and respect is everything in the game. And accountability comes from doing the hard things the right way and getting everybody to do those things. Respect comes from the way you practice. And those two things had to be led by the coach and the leaders. And if they're in cohesion with each other, you got a unified force, it's like gold. If you don't, it's just a constant shit show that you're kind of situation motivated and it never works long term. But you need to have those two elements at their highest level if you expect to be a good team.
So it's not this way as much now, but back when I played, and certainly when you got coaching, the boys going out to have a few beers. It was part of the culture back then. In fact, when I started, it was promoted by the team. There's beer on the bus, beer in the locker room, beer on the plane. And it's kind of barbaric when you talk to some people like, really? Like, you guys drank that much beer? But looking back at it, it was like that playing guilty, the guys together. You obviously knew that was going on. Did you condone it? Did you just turn the other way? Did you say, I like this, my guys are together all the time?
I really felt like togetherness is everything. And I sometimes created an atmosphere. If I felt like we were going in 15 different directions, I went out of my way to make sure they were mad at me, so they were unified.
Really? Okay.
And I knew when they were going out, and I wouldn't allow it to be an excuse. So if they went out on a Saturday night, we were practicing on Sunday morning, I would still go short and hard. But I liked that they went out, but I needed 20 minutes. So I went 20 minutes really hard and then just kicked them off the ice.
Right.
So I had a really good read. You know, the one thing that's really missing in this, Tom, is that one of the things that I learned over time from going to clinics and especially from college coaches was who's watching me.
Right.
And so I would designate a coach to watch the interaction between me and the players. Were their heads up? Were they looking at the board when I was drawing packages on the board or whatever? Did I have their attention? And I would have a guy that coached me on every set. And he'd be candid, you know, you're not getting through to the players here. They're not even looking at the board, you know. So he was watching me rather than watch the players. And I think that really helped me understand the atmosphere and the energy level of the team all the time.
Right. You had Rick Wilson with you in Dallas, correct?
I had him in Dallas and St. Louis.
Oh, that's right. Great man.
He was the guy.
Okay.
I was in Dallas and in St. Louis. He was the guy.
I had him as assistant coach out in L.A. Love him. He was, he'd hurt his back when he played and had to retire. And, he was the same way. So I was so stubborn. Like when I first started, I'm not getting on the trainer's table. I'm going to play through every injury. I'm not listening. I'm going to go. That's it. And it served me well, that stubbornness, right? I just would not quit. Wouldn't listen to anybody. Wouldn't listen to anybody tell me I can't do something. I'm just going to do it. But near the end of my career, when I hurt my back, Rick Wilson be skating around me at practice in Culver City in L.A. there. And he'd be going, Tom, I know what you're thinking. You've got to change. And nope, I'm not changing. This is what I've done I'm going to go have a beer after practice, and that's it. I'll be fine. And he was such a good guy. He cared about me so much. He was trying to get me to change. And I look back, and it's interesting, right? I like to hear you think about this because, I mean, I'm sure it's the same way as a coach. I mean, to be successful, like when you're starting off in junior coaching up, people, like, you're not going to get to the NHL. You're not going to make it. And you got to have that stubbornness to say, yes, I am. I am going to get where I want to get. But I guess it's interesting. At some point, you got to kind of put that stubbornness aside and learn to change. Like you found, like you changed things and learned things along the way when you're coaching, right?
Oh, I did a lot. You know, I was on this constant yearn for. I went through a 10-year period, Tom, where every off season I would travel somewhere to watch another team of high level operate. I was in Hungary with the national handball team. I was in England, the English Premier League. I was in Germany in their Division I program. I was with Andy Reid twice, Kansas City and Philadelphia. I was with Tony La Russa. I wanted to learn from other organizations what being on part of a team meant and how it felt and looked. And I went on this learning journey every year to see if I could learn from other teams. I learned the most, quite frankly, from the national handball team in Hungary.
Really?
About respect and perfection in practice and camaraderie. I learned a lot from watching those guys operate, and I really tried to pass that information on to the players when I started the next year.
Right.
So I felt like I owed it to people to get better every year.
And owe it to yourself too, right? You want to get better every year, right?
Yeah.
For yourself.
I wanted to be on the cutting edge of not just a way to play and an understanding. I wanted to be on the cutting edge of leadership, and I was really focused on doing that.
So Robert Fatorik, I played with in New York here, and he coached me in L.A. Love the guy. Total respect for him as a person, as a coach, as a player. But he was very rigid. I mean, it was Robbie's. He had his rules. The 45-second shifts. Rules are the same for everybody. Now Wayne Gretzky gets traded to L.A., and that doesn't work, right? It's like, and to Robbie's credit, he said to me one time, listen, Tom, I'm going to coach the way I coach. I'm going to get fired at some point anyways. I might as well coach the way I coach. Is that the way you felt about it? Or did you have a player like Wayne coming in, you knew you had to change?
No, I had to be the one that made the adjustments. I made a mistake in 1996 when Bob brought me into Dallas to coach in January 96 to finish the season off. I brought a system that was in play by the Oilers and was in play by the U of A Golden Bears. And I brought it into Dallas and it didn't work. I needed to adjust. I needed to change. We needed to play the way that Rick and Doug played in Montreal and Bob played in Montreal. We needed that system because we didn't have the foot speed to play the way I wanted. I needed to adjust. And it was the same with top players. There needed to be, I don't want to say a double standard, but there needed to be flexibility with certain players. There were items that were non-negotiable, but they were all work-related items. They were non-negotiable. But as far as the other stuff, there were different standards for different players. And I felt very strongly that I needed to be flexible in those standards.
And one of those players was obviously Brett Hull, right? Can you talk about your relationship with Hull a little bit?
Well, I felt like after my second meeting with Ollie that I was the dum-dum and he was the smart guy. And I felt like I need to shut up and either talk about golf or music because I'm going to learn a lot from this guy about offensive hockey. And he taught me more than any player I ever coached on how to create offense, how to make sustained offensive plays. And I learned more from Brett Hull as a coach than I did pretty much from any other player.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And he was a guy for me, he was candid, he was abrasive, but man, was he smart. And he knew all the elements, how to hide on the ice, where to go, how to stay ahead of the play, how to have a clear understanding, how to create odd man rushes. And he taught me a lot. And I just literally stayed out of his way because I don't think he ever got the credit for how tough he was. Yeah. He was one tough son of a bitch. Yeah. And I just felt very early on when we were meeting that if I just shut up and learn and keep asking questions, I'm going to learn a lot.
That's pretty cool that you're willing to do that. I guess we all have pride, right? I mean, you're the coach. You're supposed to be leading the way. So to be able to say, no, I'll still lead the way, but this guy's going to teach me a lot of stuff too. I'm impressed by that. That's cool.
Tom, I really felt like I love being able to learn from people. Like I learned a lot from Mike Badana or Joe Newendike. I learned a lot from those guys. And I felt like that was my job to make sure I had an open mind.
Right. It's interesting about like it's a double standard. You really don't want to call it that, but so I, again, lucky at the end of my career, played with Gretzky and Robinson, in particular, those two guys. And it was interesting because Wayne would stay out for those 3 or 4 minute shifts. And at first you're thinking, is that selfish or what? But they think, no, it's not selfish with Wayne because he's proven over and over. He wants to win. He thinks he's got something going for the team, so he's got to stay out there. And I think once you're with him for a while, you understand, that he's doing it because that. Same thing with Larry Robinson. He had that play where he'd come around the back of the net in his own zone, fire right up the middle of the ice, And sometimes he'd get picked off and they'd go down and score, but you know what? Wouldn't stop him one bit. He'd come back again, do the same thing, and then there'd be a breakaway. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not staying over for 3 or 4 minute shifts, and I'm not firing the puck up in the middle of the ice, but those guys can do it. And I think, to me, our team we got that sense of, you can do anything because they had so much confidence. Like Larry, for instance, even if it got picked off and they went in and scored, right back at it again. I looked at myself, I go, wow, that is like to be that mentally tough to say, you know what, I've done this before. I know I can do it. Just because it didn't work this time doesn't mean I got to stop doing it. So I love that stuff.
Yeah, I really admire when a player's stubborn.
Yeah,
especially with the puck. I really admire that. I don't, the difference. Like I'll give you an example. Like what I learned over time was when you want a player to get the puck into the zone, rather than say get it deep or get it to the end boards, I learned over time change the dialect. So we changed it to, hey, cross the blue line, make a play, but it's got to be a strong play. Right. And rather than just get it deep. And I tried to allow the creativity to be there, but it still had to be a strong, high percentage play. And over time, I learned how to negotiate with the players.
So even like you get a fourth line guy who's limited in his skill, but you love him. He's all grit and heart and, hits, does all the things he needs to do. But you need to go to him and say, listen, you can't play like Wayne Gretzky. You got to play differently. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you can. You don't have to say it, but you can. He knows that. But here's the key thing is. So I'll give you an example. Ryan Reeves.
Yep.
Ryan Reeves is now a fourth line player. When I coached him in St. Louis, I thought for sure he was going to be a third line player. Every day we worked with him killing penalties. Every day we worked with him on wall work. I trusted Ryan Reeves when the game was on the line, but I never put him out killing penalties, which I should have. And I think I was one of the guys that stunted his growth because I still think Ryan Reeves could be a third line player because he's so good on the wall. He makes the right play. He plays with a conscience, and he's really got a smart stick. But he's been dialed into a certain role now, and everybody wants him to play that role. But I think he's capable of more if given the opportunity. And so those are the avenues that I looked at: is where's this guy's maximum potential, and how do I go about getting it out of him?
Yeah, I agree with you. When he was here in New York, he had some times there where his line was the best line on the ice because they knew how to get it down low and forecheck and all that. So sure, I agree with you totally.
What about a guy like Sergei Zubov, though? Were you kind of hands off with Zubov?
I just felt like he was a player I could learn a lot from. And so rather than me coach him, I turned him over to Rick, and Rick negotiated with him. And we never had one discussion of what to do with the puck. We felt like he knew more than we were ever going to learn, and we could learn a lot from him because his hockey IQ was over the moon. And rather than coach him, we need to just keep asking questions. So that's what we did. We asked questions: power play, 5-on-5 play, how to defend this, how to handle this. And we learned more from Sergei than he ever learned from us. I mean, Sergei and I are great friends, but I felt like I learned way more from him than he ever did learning anything from me.
I got to tell you, and I mean this is a total compliment to you. Like, we've known each other, but it's like this is probably the most we really sat down and spoken to each other. And I never would have thought, with multiple players, I'd hear you say that you learn more from them than you did from that. That's probably unfair to you for me to say that, but I didn't understand that part of your personality, that you were willing to accept the fact that, yes, this person as a player is going to teach me more as a coach, and to step back and just take it, right? So that's cool. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I did the same thing with Connor and Leon. I mean, we have a great relationship, and we're really good friends, but I helped them become 200-foot players, and they helped me understanding on how to create offensive opportunities and run a power play. So there was a give and take, and I worked really hard with them to have value in both ends of the rink, and positioning wise, I taught them as much as I could, but I learned a lot when I turned them loose on the power play and turned the power play over to Glenn Gullickson. I felt like I was learning more every day watching them operate on the power play, and I felt like I could learn stuff from them. And so they're basically what happened is with your best players, if you can form a partnership, that's going to make the team really effective. And that's what I tried to do was with the top players, I tried to form a partnership.
Hitch, you see these young kids like Connor McDavid come in now at 18 years old and really have success too, both on and off the ice. When I was 18 years old, as a freshman at college at Northern Michigan University with our buddy Walt Kyle, actually he came in next year. But I think to myself, there's no possible way I was ready, like even off the ice, to be an NHL hockey player. Do you think it's something that I think it hurts some players actually because Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews have so much success at 18 years old, again, on and off the ice? I think now the expectation is that all these 18 years old kids, and now Bedard, well, he's a unique player, but all these kids are going to come in and just be able to hit it out of the park as 18-year-olds in the National Hockey League.
Well, when you listen to the interviews,
yeah,
it's it's all cookie cutter.
Yeah,
everybody same thing now, and everybody's so well schooled and so well taught that the maturity level of the players now at 18 is like they're 25.
Yeah,
and that's what's really impressive for me is mentally they're more than ready, and physically they're not. It's still a man's game. It's still a second and third effort game, but mentally they're with it. They're way more mature than the players were when they were 18 when I was coaching.
Yeah.
And that's a real credit to the way they're taught coming up and the influence of their parents and the people. Like a lot of players that come up that are good players, you got a lot of people working on the sidelines for them.
Yeah.
And they're very, very mature in their thought process, and you got to really respect that.
I agree. Hitch, if you were not a National Hockey League coach, what would you have done with your life?
I would have loved to be a history teacher.
Oh.
I'm fanatical about history. Now, a lot of it is military, and some of it's socially. But I would have loved to be a history teacher. And I've been over to Europe 3 times to go on World War II tours. I've been on World War I tours. I've been a Civil War reenactor for over a dozen years. I've been on pretty much every battle site in the United States that impacted Civil War. So I feel like I've got a really good feel on history and how the outcome affected society and everything like that.
So people don't realize the cannon that is in Columbus when they score goals was your bring. You brought that in, right?
Well, I was the conduit in between it. I get shit for that. A guy that was a president of the team made the decision, but I had input on buying it because we were getting jabbed. It wasn't original, and they were trying to charge us an original price. So I got in the middle of the thing and said, listen, this is a replica, and this is what they're worth, and don't pay a nickel more. And Larry went out and negotiated. We bought the cannon in Cincinnati, and I've gotten a lot of shit for that cannon going off all the time and everything like that. And that's what people don't realize. Like, it's amazing to me. The Civil War Union uniforms, Tom, were made right out the back door of the arena in Columbus of Nation.
Oh.
There was a train staging station, and they were built in warehouses behind the arena, and then put on the train and then shipped to the soldiers. And that's where that blue jacket whole thing comes from. Like, that was a lot of the uniforms were built.
Well, I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool. Wow, I've never heard that story before at all. That's very cool. Very cool. So Hitch, you've talked about some things you would do differently with players, or maybe they held Reeves back and maybe you could have been a better player. Any big regret that you look back in your coaching career that you do differently?
Tom, I think in general, there's one, and it's more general than anything, but I don't think as you're pushing up the ladder and you're pushing the thing up the hill that you don't pause and say, hey, how much you appreciate their sacrifice. And I think it didn't come till later in my career when I started to realize that. But I wished I would have had it from day one. I was so busy pushing and prodding and living in tomorrow or living in today. I never stopped to reflect and thank them enough. And I'm going to do that in the Hockey Hall of Fame speech because I really appreciate it.
That's right. I forgot about that. Congratulations. Yes.
Yeah, thanks. But I feel like, you know what? We don't do that enough, and we better start doing it because it's going to end pretty quick.
Yeah. So with Herb Brooks, I had him for 4 years, made a huge, the time I got him early, I was a young man, early in my career, still trying to figure out who I was as a player, and he really shaped me and sent me in a certain direction. And there's certain things he'd say, like, he'd had this saying, like, passes come from the heart. We'd be in practice, and we're kind of going half-ass, and then he'd stop practicing, and if you pass the puck, put your heart into it, and he'd be really intense. And I really think that, I don't know if I'd like to hear your opinion on this. Is there times when you're a coach, you're saying that this is going to really make a difference in this person's life as well? Because that kind of stuff for her really made a difference in my life. Like my life now, when I'm going to do something, I put my heart into it. And I think back all the time about him saying that stuff.
Well, the thing that shocked me was when this Hall of Fame thing came in, I got a lot of calls from guys that I coached midget with. I spent 12 years coaching midget hockey. 15, 16-year-olds. And there's a lot of emotional responses, long text, long phone calls. And I can't believe how much the players feel like I molded them into what they became. And I'm really appreciative of that. And I probably did show it enough. But I'm kind of shocked, surprised, and really humbled by the impact I had with the midget players. The kids that never made a career in hockey, but made a career in a business and family life and raising a family and everything like that. I was just trying to be a good coach and then to realize the impact that you had on them. It's really hit home here.
Well, I think that's one of the great things about hockey too, right? Like building a good hockey player is also building a good person. Like the two of them go hand in hand in my mind. I've coached kids for a long time, and I came to realize that. Like people ask, like, do you want to win? I said, yeah, I want to win. But it's a process that goes into winning that really matters, right? Teaching those kids, whether you win or not, but it's how do you get to that point as a team to try to win something. So,
And I've always felt like, Tom, the game is the process of what you did before the game.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a perfectionist at practice, and I demand the respect of practice, because the practice is my wheelhouse. That 45 minutes, that's my wheelhouse. I own that 45 minutes, and I want perfection. The flow of the game is the flow of the game. The practice, I own that, and I never let anybody run drills in that 45 minutes. That's my job, and I want that control.
Very cool. Okay, so proudest moment does not have to be winning a Stanley Cup or a gold medal or anything. What's your proudest moment coaching?
I would say the year we made the playoffs with Columbus. That's the best job I've ever done in my life coaching. And
Wow.
And it was, we were undermanned, we weren't even close to the cap, and we got in the playoffs. I think that's the best job I've ever done in my life coaching a hockey club.
That's cool. That's very cool. I like that. Yeah, because you go win a Stanley Cup, it's fantastic. I've never won one, but I'm sure it's a fantastic feeling. But obviously you have to have the players. You've got the Brett Hulls and all those guys to win. To do that in Columbus, when you don't have the players, you got to squeeze the most out of them, right? So,
Hey, where's the ring?
The ring is on tour.
Oh.
It's last summer. I went into the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame, Hockey Hall of Fame, and so you had to give up. So I gave up my Olympic rings and Stanley Cup rings, and it's on tour in Red Deer, and they kind of own it for a year, and they show it around and things like that, and then it'll come back to me at the end of the summer here.
very cool. How old are you now, Hitch?
72.
Are you 72? Wow, good job. That's pretty good. You look good for 72. So it's coaching all those years too. Man.
Well, I put it this way, Tom. I survived.
Hey, you did.
Right to the Hall of Fame.
Well, I got to tell you, Hitch, like I said before, we knew each other before, but this is the most we've really sat down and talked to get to know each other, get to know you better. And I got to tell you, of all the podcasts we've done, you probably impressed me more as a person, guy, because I went in with this, this attitude, there's this Ken Hitchcock, always, yell at the players and getting in FU fights with the players. But after speaking to you now, like the stuff you talked about learning from the players and that kind of stuff, I'm totally impressed by you as a person and a coach. So it's been great to have you on the show.
Guys, I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this.
Good.
Same here. Thanks.
We will do it again.
Congrats on the Hall,
All right.
Ken.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, good luck in that induction too. That'd be fun. I would watch it.
Who's inducting you?
Bob Gainey's going to do it.
Oh, nice. What a class man he is. Yeah,
Great friend.
that's good. All right, Hitch.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Take care. Thanks.
Wow, that interview went in a different direction, in a good direction, but a different one than I thought it would go.
Well, yeah, Mr. Ken Hitchcock. Wow. Obviously, I've been critical of coaches like him, Mike Babcock, Mike Keenan, and being very public about it. And I want to make sure when I went on, I didn't want to hide that. I want to make sure, listen, I have been critical of you. And we talked through stuff, and it was amazing. And in fact, he didn't deny anything, like the, causing chaos. He talked about that kind of stuff. What I was really thrilled about was listen to him talk about how he learned so much of certain players like Brett Hull and Zubov and those guys. And not just,
Madonna.
yeah, not just that he learned, but he was willing to learn. Like, I had this impression, like, I'm Ken Hitchcock. I know everything about hockey. I don't need to listen to anybody else. But that was not the case at all with him. So.
No, he said he learned from that. He also, a lot of it came down to, we spoke about how its communication has changed. And you mentioned this too. When you came up as an 18-year-old, you were all adrift at sea. But these kids that come up now are so polished because they've been preparing for this since they're probably 12, or at least knowing they had a shot at this.
Yeah.
And so they're so well schooled and so well trained and educated. So it's a different breed, and it's also kids who, I don't think that my way of the highway stuff works anymore. It's a different world.
Yeah, and Hitch touched on that too, talking about how you have to really explain to them, okay, here's why we're doing this. Yeah, we never had that. And frankly, I guess I just grew up never having that, so I just never assumed it was going to happen from a coach. So I never wanted, and like I talked about too with her Brooks coaching me, where he would come down and kick me out of the rear end and tell me to get out there. That kind of, I don't know, for me, and it's a different time and different era, and we were different personalities and everything, but that kind of drove me because, sure, to me, it was sending the message, and we talked about this in the show with Hitch, that it was like, he didn't care whether I was at 75% or 60% or 100, he just wanted me on the ice.
Or he could have said to you, hey, I don't care if you're at 75%, I want you on the ice, which is the communication that's now changed. Things are much better in that department. They should be.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I'm jaded because of the old school mentality in me. That's like, no, just show up and play and do your job, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just kids go out in the world now with social media and everything. Yeah, to ask them to kind of be a different person when they come to the hockey rink than they are in normal life,
It's not going to happen. But here's the plan. Here's why I think it's going to work. Here's what you need to do to execute that plan. Here's the result. And I think that's where Hitch kind of intimated that's how he approached it.
Yeah. And listen, all players, they want to win. There's no question about that. But they also want to do well individually, too. You know, there's contracts at stake. There's pride at stake.
There's agents to deal with.
Yeah. So it's, I think when you, now as a coach, you're going to him and say, okay, listen, here's the role you need. Here's what I need you to do. And if you do what I need you to do, here's how this is going to affect the team. And here's what's going to happen with your career. And again, it would work out that way back then when I was playing, but it really wasn't verbalized like it is now.
Yeah. You know what I love too? He said he stayed out of the locker room post game his whole career. Yeah. You know, he said maybe 10 times in his whole career went into the locker room after a game. I always thought the coach just ran in and started rambling. But we've had a lot of guys on the show so far. Obviously, we've done a lot of these shows, and they generally the thing they miss most is the room.
Yeah.
He did the room with the guys.
You know what? It was funny. I haven't really thought about it much, but then when he talked about where was it? Oh, it was the Olympics when they got the tying goal. U.S. tied Parisi tied the game, and they walked down. Him and Babcock walked towards the locker room, and they got the sense they heard that the players had taken over the locker room. I started getting goosebumps as it said that because I remember those times where, again, like you're in a locker room with these great players, whether it's Phil Esposito and Barry Beck in New York, or Larry Robinson and Wayne Gretzky in L.A., and you're in that locker room, and you're participating in this conversation where, yeah, it's like we've taken control. It's like we want to win. We're not little kids that don't need to be coached now. We want to win.
It's almost like, right. Like the parents said, you know what, the kids got this. The kids are driving the car now.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to, we go to the Herb Brooks again in the Miracle movie where he riles up Rob McClanahan and he says to Patrick, you think that'll get him going?
Yeah, you clean up the mess or something.
Totally on purpose and, intentional.
And that was funny. I was thinking the same thing with Hitch was talking too. Yeah, he would create some chaos.
Absolutely.
Like, that Brian Brewer, when he was playing there, he was hot. He called me up after the game and he'd gotten into a serious FU fight with the.
Was he like, you got to talk to this guy because I can't deal with him kind of thing?
No, I don't think he was as much with Brian. And it was interesting here. Hitchcock too, because he felt like Brian was a strong enough person that he could do that to him and he could handle it and get going more. So I think more Brian was just venting. It was more like because he'd said, really the conversation on the bench was pretty heated.
Was FU all we have to do it.
It's unfair to Hitch when he was a little overweight and it was always, the guys would always go, you fat this.
Yeah, but that's low. That's stupid.
Yeah. No, it was it. Again, the similarities in that regard between Herb and Hitch were very apparent where they had a plan of how they were going to stir the pot, right? And pretty much knew who to do it with and who not to do it with.
And obviously you're not, it's not going to work with someone like Brett Hull, but those other guys, the third line guys, you have to do that. So it's a whole old, chestnut of either pat on the back or kick in the butt. Some guys need one or the other.
And that is the key thing, knowing which one's which. Right. Like, boy, I think both cases with Herb and Hitch, they really did their homework to find out which player could handle it and which one couldn't.
And now he's taking that right to the Hall of Fame. Have you been to the Hall of Fame?
I've been in the Hall of Fame, yes.
No, but you're not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I've had 2 Hall of Fames, the Brampton, Ontario Hall of Fame. Hold on, don't, and the Northern Michigan University. Now, but I also, my name is in, I don't know my name. So when Gretzky, tied the point or got the time, so I was on that score sheet. So I'm on the score sheet that's in the Hall of Fame.
But you're not really in the Hall of Fame.
No, my name is in the Hall of Fame, clearly.
But you can buy a ticket, obviously.
So is your name in the Hall of Fame?
There's plenty of Tom Smiths in the Hall of Fame, in the NHL, in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Yeah.
No, there's no Tom Smith.
Absolutely is.
Who else?
Look it up.
Tom Smith?
There's a Tom Smith in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Player?
Yes.
A forward?
I think from the 20s. Not me, but I'm in the Hall of Fame like you're in the Hall of Fame.
On the score sheet.
And then we could all be in the Hall of Fame for what, $20 a ticket?
They let me in for free.
But this will be a great moment for Hitch and a nice exclamation point on his career this summer. When
classy guy, inducted him in, Bob Gainey, too, well-spoken guy, very polished.
Absolutely. He was great with us. Great interview.
Yeah, it was good. Hitch is that fast. And again, I'm so happy we did it. That's like I look at him in a totally different way now.
Awesome.
All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.